Yo, this video has a hell of spoilers. It's all about Volume 8. Shit gets lit. We learn a lot of things. I don't plan on holding any of it back because it would not be much of a review without it. But if you haven't read it yet, or you just don't care maybe, figure out what you're gonna do. Just do it. Hi guys, Okama Otaku here, leader of the Chainsaw Pirates. If you've been here before, thanks for coming back. If it's your first time, thanks for joining. We're here to talk about Chainsaw Man, Volume 8, entitled Super Mess. And we're going to be covering chapters 62 through 70 for this volume. And the entire thing, again, comprises the super arc, the International Assassins arc, wherein, honestly, by this point, I can't even properly summarize it. There's so much shit happening. There are 4 groups of assassins after Denji. He's got protectors and security guards with him. There are dolls everywhere for some reason. There's just a lot going down. The title of the volume, Super Mess, is so accurate because, well, from an overhead bird's eye view, I'm sure it looks like a complete mess. But for my money, I think Fujimoto's handling it really well. So as usual, we're going to take a second here to appreciate the cover art, because you won't hear me say it enough times. Fujimoto, he be killing it. I'm so impressed with the man's art, both in the chapters and on the covers, in the volumes and in the regular releases. But the background of this one is just colored, this nice aqua green color with a few darker spots of green and some yellow splashes. And the title logo and the author's name, both the Japanese and translated versions, are in yellow, and the title that's translated into English along with the chapter number, the volume number, are both dark pink. So it's a nice green, yellow, and pink they got going on here. It's beautiful. It shows Denji, who's been transformed into his Chainsaw Man state, along with Quan Chi, who is in a yet-to-be-revealed form. Ooh, I didn't realize how spoilery this cover was. I didn't think about it because they haven't actually revealed this yet. Whatever, hell, if you're here, you probably already know. But they're fighting next to each other, and they're just kind of floating, fighting side by side. We don't know what that's about just yet, but it's as usual. It's a beautiful cover art. There's some blood splashes and things going on, so it's mildly gory to reflect the series, which is usually much more than mildly gory. But yeah, let's just get into it. And so normally this would be the part of the review where I would take a second to recap some of what's been happening, what's going on. But honestly, the volume title is very indicative of what's going on. It's a fucking super mess, and not in the way that the author, Fujimoto, is handling the story poorly or handling his characters poorly, but quite the opposite. He's got so many moving pieces and players right now that I'm surprised he's able to keep track of them at all, quite frankly. But he's doing a really good job of it. And last we saw, everybody was fighting everybody, and Kishibe revealed that he wants Makima dead, even offering to have Quan Chi help him with said goal, even though she was uninterested. And so we move right into chapter 62, which is titled Super Mess, wherein Quan Chi and Kishibe, they exchange a few blows back and forward and a few dodges before eventually Quan Chi manages to outmaneuver him and throw him out of the window, where he lands on Kobeni's car below. Poor Kobeni. Poor her car. This is the second time now we've seen some shit go to after Power ran into Sato and crashed it. Aldo is still in the room, like randomly attacking everyone, and because he's by himself now, and he dodges a fireball from Long before Quan Chi throws him out of the window also, where he also lands on Kobeni's poor car. Like, girl, you and your car are really going through it. Power, who is still holding down Pinksy, demands that Quan Chi let them all go and leave them alone, but Quan Chi asks Power to stand down and says that if she does so, she'll keep her safe, to which Power briefly considers. Which, I think that entire exchange, short as it was, makes sense. Power hesitating at the offer of being allowed to live, because that's all she wants, is to be allowed to live. Every time we've seen so far in the story where someone offers her a way out of whatever trouble she's in, she considers it, at least for a moment. And it makes sense that Quan Chi would tell her that she would keep her safe, because when she was introduced, she was having an orgy with her harem of female fiends. So she's a lesbian, and she likes pretty fiend girls, even though the fiends that she already had weren't that pretty. Power is objectively much prettier than all of them, but she's also our lead female, so that kind of makes sense. And so while they're having this exchange, Beam busts through the floor and frees Denji from Long, which gives him the chance to flee. And then Yoshida stops Quan Chi and asks her for a rematch. They go back and forth, trading like really devastating blows where and Yoshida comments that Quan Chi must not be human because like he is slugging her. You hear me? Like they are fighting. But he says that because she's like so durable and able to just basically walk through and take these hits, she can't be human. And so Beam and Denji are fleeing when Denji accidentally steps on the curse nail left behind by Tolka, and he gets flung into the air instantly, where the curse devil appears and rips him to shreds, much like he did to the Katana Man back when Aki fought him. And then next, Tolka appears and he kicks Beam into the ground before our chapter just ends. Now to chapter 63, which is titled Trip to Hell. And so Denji and Beam both are laying on the ground unconscious as the woman who Tolka has been referring to as Master appears and applauds him for his work. She explains that you make a perfect doll by getting the trust, respect, pity, and worship of a victim before turning them into a doll. Which is strange because we haven't seen her turn anyone into a doll. We've only seen the German man, Santa Claus, turn people into dolls. And after making that explanation, she transforms Tolka into a doll. And then she reveals that the German man is simply another perfect doll that she made, and that she is the real Santa Claus, which for me was a mic drop. I didn't see that. The man is really good. Fujimoto's great about writing these little twists in, because here we are presented with 4 groups of assassins, and the whole while this woman, who we thought was so frail and weak, has been in control of 2 of the groups of assassins. It's just wild. And so Aki and the others awaken as Quan Chi throws Yoshida out the window again. Not throw him out the window again, she throws yet another person out the window, but he saves himself from hitting the ground using the octopus devil. And Aki, he gets ready to fight, but he suddenly finds himself horrified and confused by another future vision. And suddenly, Santa Claus, who we now know to be the woman named Master, sacrifices the German man and 3 of the children that we saw him request for compensation earlier to the Hell Devil in return for sending everyone inside the building straight to hell. Outside, the people who are watching this all go down, they see a giant 6-fingered hand reach down and seem to crush the building as everyone inside gets plunged into darkness. And suddenly, they find themselves, everyone who's inside the building finds themselves standing in the middle of a large grassy field covered under a sky that is completely covered by various doors. And it is revealed that they are now in hell. Oh, you shouldn't see the remote. Whatever. We open to chapter 64 entitled Welcome to Hell. And we watch the group. They're checking their surroundings. Aki wakes up Denji, who immediately tries to transform, but is only able to make the tip of the chainsaw on his head appear. And Quan Chi says that's due to him being low on blood. And then she suggests that they call a truce between the entire group, everyone here, until they can figure out just what the hell is happening. She then notes that all of the fiends who got transported with them, so that would include Power, Long, Pinksy, and the Violence Fiend, are all having nervous breakdowns at the moment, and Angel Devil, who is quietly freaking out on his own, explains to Aki that they are now in hell. Quan Chi asks him if there's a way out, and Pinksy explains that devils much stronger than the Gun Devil are now watching them. She calls them the primal fears, who have never died. And I guess that's meant, the devils in this series are created by people fearing, whatever the case may, whatever the thing is. And so she's saying the primal fears, which I understood to be like the instinctual fears that humans have, like a fear of darkness, a fear of dying, fear of hell, etc., 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 are the ones who are watching them now. And so the primal fears are devils who have never died. And she then weeps as Quan Chi denies her request to commit suicide because she's so scared that she asks if she can just kill herself. She cries, and then a drop of black liquid falls from one of the doors in the sky and hits the ground, and it reveals itself to be the Darkness Devil. They prepare to fight as darkness envelops the entire area where the group is standing, and then a row of bisected, cut in half, astronauts appears, which is strange. The Darkness Devil then takes a step and he moves past all of them, and as he does so, he instantly detaches everyone's arms from their torsos. Everybody's stunned, and Toka, who is a full doll now, offers Denji's heart to the devil in return for the power to kill Makima. Back on Earth, we see Santa Claus, and she swallows a piece of the Darkness Devil's flesh whole. And then we end the chapter. Chapter 65 is titled The Darkness Devil. And in this chapter, we open to him accepting the deal with Tolka and then decapitating him. Kusakabe and his Stone Devil both get killed when they try to attack the Darkness Devil. And Beam revives Denji with blood from his severed arms and is then also sliced to pieces by the Darkness Devil. Next, Quan Chi and Tamaoka try to attack, but they also get shredded to pieces alongside Power, Long, and Pinksty. Then the Violence Fiend removes his mask, which we had explained to us earlier in the series that he wears as a sort of power dampener for him. And he tries to attack before he is blasted full of holes. Next, Denji tries to attack, but all of his bones are snapped and shattered to pieces, and he hits the ground before he can make contact with the Darkness Devil. And then Aki sees Power on the ground unconscious, and he thinks of Himeno's death, and it causes him to have a bit of a breakdown and collapse as well. He loses his willpower. Next, the Violence Fiend, who somehow is not dead after being turned into Swiss cheese, gets up and attacked, but he is impaled by a sword that the Darkness Devil has summoned. And then the Darkness Devil crouches down and is kind of looming over Aki as the Angel Devil just kind of watches on in horror, and the chapter ends. So suffice to say, this is I breezed through it. It was longer reading, watching everybody get fucked up like that. But this chapter 65, Darkness Devil, was just an exhibition of the Darkness Devil being a bad bitch. He's a devil. It's a devil, so it's genderless. But he's a bad bitch. She's a bad bitch. They're a bad bitch. They just fucked up everybody without really even moving from their spot. So we end there. Move to chapter 66, which is entitled Wolf. And so the Darkness Devil turns to look at the Angel Devil, who starts to bleed from his eyes, nose, mouth, and ears. And then he turns to look at Aki, who begins to do the same thing. But then suddenly, the Spider Fiend, Prince, she appears and tries to grab at the Darkness Devil, but she gets shredded to pieces also before she can make contact. And then it's revealed that she has been in contact with Makima back on Earth this entire time, who is amused that the Darkness Devil seems to be trying to goad her into coming to Hell. And then she orders Prince to call her, at which point Prince unzips. She has this zipper that goes down the front of her body, and she unzips it. It unzips automatically, and then Makima steps out of the zipper, which is just like, what are you doing, girl? But as soon as she shows up, she and the Darkness Devil both go to just point at each other. And when this happens, the Darkness Devil, whose torso is covered in faces, all of the faces on him begin to bleed, much like the Angel Devil just did, like Aki just did, and like that one Yakuza member did back in the chapter where Makima was threatening them with the bag of eyeballs. And in retaliation, her finger, Makima's finger, starts to like bend back and crack and be broken. And so Makima grabs Toka, his decapitated head anyway, and she stands up and holds her arm out. And as she does so, her arm starts to like twist and crack and be shattered into pieces. But Toka's head suddenly offers all of himself to the Hell Devil in exchange for sending everyone back to Earth, where they all suddenly reappear on the rooftop where Santa Claus, now powered up by the Darkness Devil, is lying in wait for them. Meanwhile, Santa Claus takes this opportunity to absorb pretty much all her dolls in the area, and it transforms her into this grotesque, multi-armed devil monster thing. And she taunts Makima, who is currently giving Denji blood, and she pulls his cord after she does so, and she explains that attacks in the dark won't work, but she asks Denji if he will save her, to which he simply replies, "Woof," and just runs towards the what do you even call her? Runs towards Santa Claus. She's something more than just Santa Claus now, but he just yells "woof" and runs towards her, and then we end our chapter there. Chapter 67, titled The Devil Hunter. And we cut to Kishibe and Yoshida as they sit outside finishing off the remaining dolls while discussing Makima and the fact that she likely has ulterior motives that go beyond the Bureau. Kishibe asks if she can currently hear them, and Yoshida explains that she can only borrow the senses from lower life forms, like the rats from earlier and birds and etc. Back on the rooftop, Denji slices through Santa Claus's arms and is yelling about her endangering Power and the others. Santa then moves through a shadow and instantly heals before she blasts Denji through the floor. And he goes to attack, but then he gets knocked back by another wave of dolls. Meanwhile, Tsukihagi is holding Quan Chi's severed head and pulls off. Tsukihagi is another one of Quan Chi's harem fiends. And then she removes Quan Chi's eye patch and pulls this long arrow-like blade out of her eye. And then she drops that head into the swarm of dolls, where Quan Chi reveals that she is a devil hybrid. I'm just going to call her the arrow hybrid because I don't think we were given a proper name of her. But as we'll see, she fights kind of with like bolts that she fires. So nearby, Quan Chi appears in front of Santa and blasts her with the bolts. And Santa is torn apart instantly. But then she instantly heals, and she congratulates Quan Chi as she's moving too fast. She's moving at speeds that are too fast for Santa Claus to register. And she compliments her on being the first devil hunter. Then she wonders how she should attack her. Suddenly, she decides to return the humanity to a large number of her dolls, which means that they essentially wake up and they're aware of their surroundings, but they're scared and still not in control of their body, so they keep attacking while they're screaming. And Denji notes that this is a particularly evil thing to do, which it fucking is. I mean, turning this city full of people into dolls is already fucked up, but then to have them essentially remain dolls but have their humanity and their minds reinstated while they still can't control their bodies and they go to attack indiscriminately, it's fucked up. It's a very fucking evil thing to do, Santa Claus, but I digress. And with that, we end the chapter. Open up to chapter 68, which is entitled Dark Power. And we find Denji trying to run away from the human dolls, but he's blocked, and he has no choice but to impale one with his chainsaws. And so now he's feeling guilt, and he starts to hold back as the dolls gradually swarm over him. But Quan Chi appears and just like shoots the dolls that are holding him down, and reminds him that they're only imitating humans. But Denji questions how she can know that, and she responds to him by saying that he just simply has to believe that because doing so is the only way that he'll be able to survive this encounter. And then she goes on to say that ignorance is bliss, which is what she repeated to Kishibe earlier when they were discussing whether or not she would help him kill Makima. And also, I want to note that this is a particularly important moment because Denji says that he didn't feel any guilt about killing the zombies that used to be human, but now that he's fighting these dolls that are not human anymore, but have been turned into some weird hybrid where they still seem to be human, he's having guilt about having to attack them, which just goes on to further confirm that he does indeed still have his humanity because he's able to still feel guilt about hurting something that seems human anyway. And so Santa Claus bursts through a wall and she grabs Quan Chi, but she's again torn apart by the blast from Quan Chi, who realizes that it's now nighttime and that Santa Claus will be even more enhanced because she's got the power of the Darkness Devil in addition to whatever this doll virus shit that she has going on is. And Santa Claus knocks Denji into a gas station, and she displays that she's now fast and strong enough to grab Quan Chi's arrows, which are super fast in their own regard, in mid-flight. Quan Chi sees that Long and Penchi are now dolls and that Tsukihagi is a hostage, and that makes her falter, and she ends up being stabbed through the chest by the pink sea doll. Suddenly, Denji emerges from the gas station, and he's covered in gasoline, and he uses his chainsaws to spark a fire, and he jumps at Santa Claus and starts to tear her to shreds while she screams in pain. And we end our chapter there. Chapter 69, Shining Power. And so we open on Denji and Santa as they both complain about the heat and the fire, and Santa pushes him off of her and starts to heal while calling him an idiot. But Denji notes that he now watches lots of educational programming, and he reveals that he took the effort to wrap a chain around Santa Claus and is using it to stay close to her. He lunges at her and slices into her some more before she says it's useless because she can spread the pain and damage from his assault across all of her dolls. But Denji is observant and notices that the light from his fire is causing her regeneration time to slow down. Santa then slams Denji into a wall as a wave of dolls comes and they stab him in the back. So she chooses to hang back and watch this. As she watches Makima's dog die from burning and bleeding out. But Denji decides to drink up some doll blood and recover it as another wave of the dolls come to attack him. And Santa says not to worry because soon he'll be dead and can join Makima. That was a weird statement because Makima's not dead, but I guess that insinuates that she plans to kill Makima too, which isn't new information. We've seen a few people talk about killing her in this arc. But then Denji just decides to start retracting his chains, which are still wrapped around Santa Claus, and pull her closer to him, while he basically just ignores the pain from the attacks. So her decision is to make a pair of dolls that are driving. First she takes the dolls that are around them and makes them start to pull on the chain to engage in a bit of a tug of war with Denji. And then a pair of dolls that are driving a car come around the corner and slam into Denji. But he just comes out of the wreckage fully covered in flames and still pulling on his chains. This horrifies Santa Claus, who kind of starts to freak out and ask him where he gets his power from, and he explains he still wants to take that trip with Makima. So he then goes to lift her into the air, and once she's in the air and is not able to use the ground or her dolls as leverage anymore, he reels her in and slices her to pieces. I'm talking about fucks her up. And as she starts to regenerate from this damage, he grabs the car, which is still burning, and slams it onto her, which causes a huge explosion that rips through her body and leaves her lying there as a smoldering husk. And with that, we end the chapter. We move to chapter 70, titled Pinch. And we open on Denji healing himself again with doll blood, as Santa is threatening him. She says that she has armies of devils all over the planet, and with the power of the Darkness Devil, she can hunt him and everyone he cares about forever. But Denji just laughs at that because he's immortal. But as soon as he says that, Quan Chi decapitates him because I guess their truce is over now. And next thing, Quan Chi has Cosmo, who, if you recall, is a Halloween girl, has been wandering in the city this entire time. She has her use her power on Santa. And we finally get a display of what that power actually is. So, inside of her own mind, Santa Claus wakes up and finds herself inside of what seems to be an endless library, and she sees Cosmo sitting at a desk. Then she goes to explain that mental attacks against her are completely useless because not only can she spread pain and damage across all of her dolls, but her mind is linked to all of the dolls on the planet as well. Cosmo, who is the Cosmos Fiend, explains that her ability is to grant an individual total and complete understanding of all things in the universe. And it is such an overwhelming experience that the victims will be left as a vegetable and only have the ability to repeat the word Halloween until they die. Now I want to take a period here. This is very reminiscent of, if you watch Jujutsu Kaisen, it's very reminiscent of Gojo's, I think it was his domain expansion that he used against the volcano demon, the volcano curse Jogo, where essentially the same thing happens to his victims, where they are given understanding of all knowledge in the universe, and it's such an overwhelming experience for them that they can't move, they can't react, they can't they can't do anything, which leaves them open to be completely destroyed by him, and lots of fun there. And so next thing we see is Santa Claus as she falls through the endless library, and in the real world she turns to dust while she just repeats the words Halloween, Halloween, Halloween. And then Yoshida and Kishibe arrive as Quan Chi turns to fight them. They put on blindfolds, and Makima emerges from between them. Seeing this, Quan Chi immediately surrenders, which, pause there, says a lot, because we've seen her do nothing but be a bad bitch since she showed up. She's been whooping asses left and right. She's been putting in the work, you know what I'm saying? But seeing Makima, she immediately surrenders and offers Makima anything at all to spare her fiends. But as you would imagine, Makima ignores that and immediately decapitates them all. Suddenly we see all of the dolls across the entire planet are malfunctioning and just repeating the word Halloween, 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 Halloween. And then we also see that Aldo was turned into a doll. And he has this very sad look on his face while also repeating the words Halloween, 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 which I took to mean that he was not only did he get turned into a doll, which explains why we didn't see him after everyone was dropped into hell. He was likely turned into a doll before then. But it also appears that he was one of the dolls that had his mind and humanity returned to him, because he's got this sad look on his face, and if I'm not mistaken, he's crying as well. But he's just repeating the word Halloween, and then we cut away from him, and we see Yoshida removing his blindfold, and he asks why Kishibe did not remove his. And Kishibe simply says, I don't want to see a thing. I don't want to watch this. I don't want to see anything happening here. And with that, we end the chapter, and we end the volume, and we end the International Assassin arc. Please get into the comments below. Tell me what you thought of the volume. Tell me what you thought of this review. It was hype. This arc, it was wild. It was the only proper mega arc in the series, covering 2 entire volumes. We met so many new characters, met so many new devils. We went to hell. We learned a lot. We experienced a lot, and we confirmed that there's obviously some shit in the game with Makima because her own people want to kill her. But yeah, it was a wild ass ride. Super Mess was the title of this volume, and again, it was so appropriate. Next time, we're gonna tune into volume 9, which will begin the arc that we've all been waiting for, the Gun Devil arc. And let me tell you, there's some shit to come in volume 9. But if you like this video, please remember to like, share, subscribe, and leave comments below. And tune in next time when I come to talk to you about volume 9 of Chainsaw Man. Thank you. Bye.